People often assume that being a real estate lawyer means you only care about property values and contract clauses. What they forget is that every property tells a story, and sometimes those stories have surprise endings that only a lawyer would see coming. My name is Sarah Chen, and I'm about to tell you how a single document I drafted 5 years ago turned my sister's perfect plan upside down. The Malibu beach house had been in our family for 3 generations. Grandpa bought it in 1960 when the coast was still relatively undeveloped, a modest 3-bedroom overlooking a pristine stretch of beach. Today, it's worth over $8 million. But its real value isn't in the property listings, it's in the memories woven into every weathered board and sun-bleached deck. To Sarah and Jennifer, Mom said, raising her champagne glass at my sister's housewarming party. Though of course, Jennifer will be the one really enjoying it now. The gathered guests, mostly Jennifer's friends from her social circle, murmured appreciatively. The beach house was prime real estate and everyone knew it. Jennifer beamed, elegant in her designer sundress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. At 35, she'd mastered the art of being the perfect socialite daughter, always available for charity galas, always ready to host the right people, always making the right connections for our family's real estate development business. I, on the other hand, had chosen a different path. At 32, I'd built my own law practice specializing in real estate and property law. Not as glamorous as Jennifer's social butterfly routine, but it had taught me something crucial. The devil is always in the details. Sarah's too busy with her little law practice to appreciate a place like this anyway, Jennifer added, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. All those dusty contracts and boring meetings. When was the last time you even took a vacation, sis? I sipped my champagne, thinking about the document locked in my office safe. Oh, I make time for important things. Mom laughed. Important things like working 60-hour weeks. Jennifer will make much better use of the house. She knows how to entertain, how to build the right relationships for the family business. I moved to the deck, ostensibly to admire the view but really to escape the subtle digs at my career choices. The Pacific stretched out before me, waves catching the late afternoon sun. How many summers had we spent here as kids? Jennifer organizing beach parties while I sat on this very deck, reading law books and dreaming of following in Grandpa's footsteps. Don't let them get to you, said a quiet voice behind me. I turned to find David Martinez, my oldest friend and fellow lawyer, holding out a fresh glass of champagne. They're not, I replied, accepting the glass. Just thinking about some old documents. David raised an eyebrow. He'd been my study partner in law school and now had his own practice focusing on corporate law. The kind of documents that make that smirk of Jennifer's premature. I smiled slightly. You remember that summer 5 years ago, when Grandpa was sick? We spent 3 weeks here helping him organize his affairs. Jennifer was too busy with her summer parties to help. I nodded, watching Jennifer hold court by the pool, already planning which of her socialite friends would get invited to which weekend gatherings. Grandpa knew more about property law than most lawyers. He taught me everything I know about the importance of reading the fine print. Sarah, Mom called from inside. Come help Jennifer show everyone the new renovations she's planning. I rejoined the party, listening as Jennifer outlined her vision for modernizing the house. New kitchen, expanded master suite, infinity pool replacing the traditional one our grandfather had built himself. Of course, we'll need to clear out all this old furniture, she was saying, gesturing at the carefully preserved mid-century pieces Grandpa had selected. Make room for something more current. Those pieces are antiques, I said quietly. Grandpa collected them specifically for this house. Jennifer waved her hand dismissively. They're outdated, like everything else here. This place needs a complete overhaul to reach its full potential. And you're just the person to do it, Mom beamed. Unlike some people who never saw the property's real value. I thought about the summers I'd spent here with Grandpa, learning not just about property law, but about the house itself. The hidden details in its construction, the careful way he'd maintained everything, and most importantly, the legal framework he created to protect it. When are you starting the renovations? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. Next week, Jennifer replied. I've already got contractors lined up. This place will be unrecognizable by Christmas. I checked my watch. Interesting timing. Mom frowned. What do you mean? Nothing, I said, gathering my things. I should head back to the office. I have some paperwork to review. On a Saturday, Jennifer laughed. This is exactly why Mom and Dad made the right choice giving me the house. You never learned to enjoy life, Sarah. I hugged Mom goodbye, nodded to Jennifer, and headed for my car. As I drove back to Los Angeles, I thought about the conversation I'd had with Grandpa 5 years ago, just months before he passed away. They think this house is just another asset, he'd said, sitting in his favorite chair overlooking the ocean. Your sister sees dollar signs, your parents see social opportunities. But you little sparrow, you see what I built here. That's when he'd asked me to help him draft some documents, just in case, he'd said. Documents that would become crucial exactly 5 years from the date we signed them. Tomorrow morning. In my office that evening, I opened my safe and pulled out a thick folder labeled Chen Family Beach House, Grandfather's Trust. Inside was the document I helped draft, along with all the supporting paperwork filed quietly with the county recorder's office. My phone buzzed. Jennifer sending photos of fabric swatches for her planned renovation. Going to make this place finally worth something, her message read. I set the phone aside and began reviewing the trust documents one final time. Tomorrow would change everything, but not in the way Jennifer and my parents expected. Sometimes the most powerful weapon a lawyer has isn't an argument or a threat. It's simply knowing what's in the paperwork that nobody else bothered to read. And I had read every word. Multiple times. After all, I'd written them myself, under Grandpa's careful guidance. Tomorrow, Jennifer would learn that her perfect plan had overlooked one crucial detail, the fine print that Grandpa and I had crafted so carefully 5 years ago. The champagne bottles at her housewarming party weren't even empty yet, but her celebration was already premature. In less than 12 hours, she'd discover exactly why Grandpa always said I was the only one who truly understood the value of his legacy. The next morning dawned clear and bright, perfect Malibu weather. I arrived at my office early, the trust documents spread across my desk. Right on schedule, my phone rang at 8:30 a.m. Ms. Chen. It was Carol from the county recorder's office. The 5-year waiting period on the Chen Family Trust expires today. Would you like me to proceed with the recording as specified? Yes, I replied, thinking of Jennifer's renovation plans. Please process everything immediately. By 9 a.m., my office phone was ringing again. This time, it was the contractor Jennifer had hired. Ms. Chen, there seems to be some confusion. We just tried to pull permits for the beach house renovation, but the property records show. Well, you might want to talk to your sister about this. I smiled. No confusion. The records are correct. My cell phone buzzed. Jennifer calling. I let it go to voicemail. Then Mom. Then Dad. By 10 a.m., my phone was lighting up like a Christmas tree. At 10:30, they all burst into my office. Jennifer was still in yoga wear, face flushed with anger. Mom looked like she might faint. Dad just seemed confused. What did you do? Jennifer demanded, slapping a printout on my desk. The county says the beach house is in some kind of trust. That you're the trustee. Not just the trustee, I replied calmly. Sit down, all of you. It's time you learned what Grandpa actually planned for his property. They sat, Jennifer practically vibrating with rage, Mom clutching her designer handbag like a shield. 5 years ago, I began when Grandpa was sick. He asked me to help him set up a special trust for the beach house. He knew exactly what would happen to it if he didn't protect it properly. Protect it from what? Dad asked. From being turned into just another asset to be exploited. I pulled out the trust documents. Grandpa loved that house not for its market value, but for what it represented, our family's heritage, our connection to the coast he fell in love with 60 years ago. That's ridiculous, Jennifer snapped. Property is meant to be developed, to reach its full potential. That's exactly what he was afraid of, I continued. So we created this trust. It had a 5-year waiting period to prevent any immediate challenges after his death. That period expired today. I handed them each a copy of the trust terms. The beach house can never be sold or substantially altered. It must remain in the family, maintained in its original character, available for any family member to use but owned by none of them individually. And I, as trustee, am legally bound to ensure these terms are followed. You can't do this. Jennifer's voice rose. Mom and Dad gave me the house. They gave you what they thought they had the right to give. But they never owned the house outright. None of us did. Grandpa transferred it to this trust 5 years ago. Everything was properly filed and recorded. You can check with any lawyer you like. Mom found her voice. But Jennifer's plans, the renovations, cannot legally proceed, I finished. The trust specifically prohibits any structural changes or modernization beyond necessary maintenance and repairs. The original furniture must remain. The exterior must maintain its historic character. The pool Grandpa built stays exactly as it is. Jennifer stood up so fast her chair tipped over. I'll fight this. I'll get the best lawyers in California to break that trust. You can try, I said mildly, but Grandpa and I spent weeks making it ironclad. We had it reviewed by 3 different estate attorneys. The waiting period was specifically designed to strengthen its legal standing. And I pulled out one final document. We included a contest clause. Anyone who legally challenges the trust automatically loses all rights to use the property, forever. The color drained from Jennifer's face as she read the clause. Dad took off his glasses, rubbing his eyes. Why? He asked simply. Why didn't you tell us sooner? Because you never asked. You never asked what Grandpa really wanted for the house. You never asked why I spent 3 weeks here that summer, working with him on paperwork. You were all too busy seeing dollar signs to notice what was really important to him. I stood up and walked to my office window. That house isn't just property to be developed. It's Grandpa's legacy. Every piece of furniture tells a story. Every room holds memories. He wanted to preserve that for future generations, not have it gutted and turned into another soulless modern mansion. So what happens now? Mom asked quietly. Now the house belongs to all of us, and none of us. Any family member can use it, but they have to respect its character and history. The trust pays for maintenance and repairs from the fund Grandpa set up, and I make sure his wishes are honored. And my plans? Jennifer's voice was small now. Are impossible to execute legally, but you're still welcome to use the house. The real house, the one Grandpa loved. Not some renovated version that erases all trace of him. They left eventually, Jennifer in tears, Mom in shock, Dad looking thoughtful. As the door closed behind them, David appeared in my doorway. That went about as expected, he said, sitting in one of the newly vacated chairs. They'll be angry for a while, I replied. But eventually they'll understand. Grandpa knew what he was doing. Over the next few months, something unexpected happened. Without the pressure to modernize or monetize it, family members actually began to appreciate the beach house for what it was. The original furniture, which Jennifer had dismissed as outdated, started collecting admiring comments from guests who recognized their mid-century value. Mom discovered Grandpa's old photo albums in the library and spent hours going through them, finally seeing the house through his eyes. Dad found himself enjoying morning coffee on the deck, watching the same waves Grandpa had watched for decades. Even Jennifer came around, eventually. I found her one evening sitting in Grandpa's favorite chair, running her hand along its worn arm. I never really looked at these pieces before, she admitted. They're actually beautiful. Grandpa chose each one specifically for this house, I said, sitting nearby. He used to tell me the story behind every piece. Tell me, she asked softly. So I did. We talked for hours that night about Grandpa's vision, about why he created the trust, about the real value of preservation over profit. A year later, the beach house has become what Grandpa always wanted, a true family gathering place. The trust ensures its upkeep. My legal oversight protects its character, and most importantly, its soul remains intact. Jennifer now brings her friends to admire the original architecture and authentic mid-century furnishings, proudly telling the story of our grandfather's eye for design. Mom hosts family dinners where we use Grandpa's old serving dishes and sit in his carefully chosen chairs. The property's market value has actually increased, thanks to its preserved historic character. But that's not what matters. What matters is that every time I walk through those doors, I can feel Grandpa's presence in every unchanged detail. Last week, I found a letter he'd left in his desk, dated the day we signed the trust documents. My dear Sarah, it read, you alone understood that some things are worth more than their market value. This house isn't just property, it's our family's heart. Keep it beating, keep it true, and remember that sometimes the best way to honor the past is to protect it from the future's hunger for progress at any cost. I framed that letter. It hangs in my office, reminding me that being a good lawyer isn't just about knowing the law. It's about using it to protect what really matters. Jennifer still sometimes sighs over her abandoned renovation plans, but last month she confessed something interesting. You know what, sis? I think Grandpa knew exactly what he was doing when he made you trustee. You didn't just protect the house, you protected us from ourselves. She was right. Sometimes the most valuable things in life aren't the ones you can renovate, modernize, or monetize. Sometimes they're the things that stay exactly as they are, preserving memories and stories for generations to come. The beach house stands unchanged, a testament to Grandpa's vision and the power of looking beyond market value to see true worth. Its weathered boards and carefully preserved furnishings tell a story that no modern renovation could improve. And me? I keep my copy of the trust documents in my office as a reminder that sometimes the greatest legal victories aren't won in courtrooms. They're crafted quietly, carefully, by those who take the time to read the fine print and understand what really needs protecting. After all, as Grandpa always said, the best contracts aren't the ones that make the most money. They're the ones that preserve what's truly priceless.
I still remember the exact shade of mahogany on the boardroom table where my father destroyed my dreams. It was 10 years ago, but the memory remains as sharp as broken glass. Absolutely not, he said, pushing my business proposal aside without even reading past the first page. Alexandra, this is a waste of everyone's time. I was 25, armed with an MBA from Harvard and 5 years of experience in tech startups. The proposal I'd spent months perfecting lay discarded like yesterday's newspaper. Dad, if you just look at the numbers. That's enough. His voice carried that familiar note of disappointment. This is a board meeting, not a family dinner. Address me as Mr. Harrison. Around the table, the other board members shifted uncomfortably. They'd known me since I was a child running through these halls, back when Harrison Technologies was still a small family business instead of a Fortune 500 company. Mr. Harrison, I corrected myself, fighting to keep my voice steady. The tech industry is evolving. If we don't adapt our manufacturing process to include... What do you know about manufacturing? He cut me off again. You've spent the last 5 years playing around with those Silicon Valley startups. This is a real company with real responsibilities. I stood my ground. Those playing around experiences taught me where the industry is heading. We need to pivot towards sustainable technology and AI integration, or we'll be obsolete within a decade. My father laughed, but there was no warmth in it. Listen to her, obsolete. Harrison Technologies has been the leading manufacturer of industrial equipment for 30 years. We didn't get here by chasing every new trend. Times are changing, I pressed. Our competitors are already. Enough. He slammed his hand on the table. You're not cut out for this business, Alexandra. You never have been. Always with your head in the clouds, always thinking you know better than people with decades of experience. The words hit like physical blows, but I refused to show it. Is that your professional opinion, Mr. Harrison, or just a father's disappointment? His face hardened. Both. Your proposal is denied. And I think it's time we discussed your position here. My position? Clearly, the role of innovation director isn't suitable for you. Perhaps something in public relations would be more appropriate for your skills. And there was the final insult. He wanted to demote me to PR, where I could smile prettily at cameras and stay out of the real business decisions. I looked around the table at the men who'd watched me grow up. None of them would meet my eyes. They were all too invested in keeping my father happy, too afraid of losing their comfortable positions. I see. I straightened my spine, gathering my dignity around me like armor. In that case, I quit. Don't be dramatic, he scoffed. Where else would you go? Who else would hire someone with your limited experience? I picked up my proposal, tucking it carefully into my briefcase. I guess I'll have to figure that out for myself. Alexandra, he called as I reached the door, if you walk out now, don't expect any help from me. No connections, no recommendations, nothing. I turned back one last time. Don't worry, Dad. I won't need them. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at the city lights through my window. 10 years of trying to prove myself to my father, of trying to earn a place in his company, had led to this moment. My phone buzzed. A message from my younger brother Thomas. Dad's furious. Says you're making a huge mistake. Maybe if you apologize. I didn't bother replying. Thomas had always been Dad's golden child, the one who followed all the rules, never questioned the old ways of doing things. He'd probably take my position now, keep everything safely in the status quo. Instead of wallowing, I opened my laptop and pulled up a document I'd been working on for months. A business plan I'd never shown my father. While he thought I was playing around in Silicon Valley, I'd actually been building connections, studying market trends, and developing something revolutionary. Phoenix Industries would combine cutting-edge technology with sustainable manufacturing processes. Everything my father had dismissed as trendy nonsense would be at its core. I had savings, some investments, and most importantly, I had the knowledge my father thought was worthless. Silicon Valley had taught me more than just technology. It had taught me how to build something from nothing. The next morning, I withdrew every penny from my bank accounts and resigned my position on Harrison Technologies' board. My father didn't even attend the exit meeting. "You're making a mistake," the HR director told me kindly. "Your father will come around eventually." I smiled, thinking of the meetings I already had lined up with potential investors. "No, he won't. But that's okay. I'm not doing this for him anymore." The first year was brutal. I worked out of a tiny office, sleeping on a couch most nights because I'd poured every cent into the business. My father made sure word got around that I'd had a breakdown, warning his business associates away from my unstable venture. But he'd underestimated what I'd learned in Silicon Valley. I had friends there, brilliant minds who'd been dismissed by old-school businessmen just like my father. They became my first partners, helping me refine my technology and attract serious investors. 18 months after walking out of Harrison Technologies, Phoenix Industries launched its first product line. Our sustainable manufacturing process caught the attention of major tech companies. Orders started pouring in. I kept tabs on Harrison Technologies through industry news. They were still doing things the old way, still resistant to change. Their stock price held steady, but their market share was slowly eroding. Thomas called occasionally, always with the same message: "Dad's willing to forgive you if you come back. He might even give you your old job." I always gave the same response: "I'm not interested in his forgiveness. I'm interested in the future." 5 years passed. Phoenix Industries expanded rapidly, acquiring smaller companies and innovating constantly. We became known as the company that could spot market trends before they happened. I never put my face on our marketing materials or gave interviews. Let the world think Phoenix Industries was run by some mysterious tech genius. The anonymity gave me freedom to build without my father's shadow looming over me. Then came the day I'd been secretly waiting for. My assistant handed me a news report. Harrison Technologies stock had dropped 30% overnight. Their biggest client had jumped ship, citing their failure to adapt to modern manufacturing requirements. My father's outdated methods had finally caught up with him. That afternoon Thomas called again. But this time his voice held none of its usual smugness. "Lex," he said, using my childhood nickname for the first time in years, "we're in trouble. Real trouble. Dad's looking for buyers, but no one's interested in our outdated facilities." I watched the sunset paint the sky orange through my office window. "That sounds serious." "There's a rumor," he continued hesitantly, "that Phoenix Industries might be interested. Their CEO is known for turning around struggling manufacturers." I smiled, thinking of the proposal my father had dismissed 10 years ago. Every warning I'd given him had come true. "Is that so?" I kept my voice neutral. Could you maybe reach out to them? You've got connections in the tech world. We really need this." I thought about that mahogany boardroom table, about my father's dismissive laugh, about all the years of being told I wasn't cut out for business. "I'll see what I can do," I said finally. After hanging up, I called my assistant. "Set up a meeting with Harrison Technologies board for tomorrow morning. Don't tell them who's coming. Just say it's Phoenix Industries CEO." "The full board?" she asked. "Yes," I smiled. "I want everyone there. Especially Mr. Harrison." Tomorrow I would walk into that boardroom again. But this time I wouldn't be the one seeking approval. How quickly things change in 10 years. The next morning I stood outside Harrison Technologies headquarters, studying the building that had once been my second home. The company logo looked faded, like everything else about my father's empire. My assistant Maria handed me a tablet with the latest figures. "Their stock dropped another 5% this morning. The market knows they're desperate." I smiled, smoothing down my custom-tailored suit. No more department store bargains like the old days. Is everyone here? Full board attendance. Your father's been there since dawn, trying to prepare for the mysterious CEO of Phoenix Industries. The security guard did a double take when I walked in. He'd known me since I was a teenager. Miss Harrison? I thought Phoenix Industries was coming. They are, I replied simply, heading for the elevator. The boardroom looked exactly the same. That mahogany table still gleamed, though the faces around it had aged. My father sat at the head, his hair now more gray than black, tension evident in every line of his face. Thomas jumped up when I walked in. Lex? What are you doing here? We're waiting for an important meeting. I know. I took my time walking to the front of the room, Maria following with our presentation materials. Phoenix Industries CEO is here. The silence that followed was deafening. My father's face went through a series of emotions: confusion, disbelief, anger, and finally something that looked almost like fear. This is a joke, he managed finally. You can't be. Alexandra Chen, CEO and founder of Phoenix Industries. I introduced myself formally. Shall we begin? That's impossible, Thomas sputtered. Phoenix Industries is worth billions. They're the leading innovator in sustainable manufacturing. They're everything I told you we needed to become 10 years ago, I finished for him. Please everyone take your seats. We have a lot to discuss. My father remained frozen, staring at me like he was seeing a ghost. You're lying. This is some kind of trick. I nodded to Maria, who activated the room's presentation screen. My credentials, Phoenix Industries financial statements, and acquisition history filled the display. As you can see, Phoenix Industries has experienced significant growth over the past decade. Our market capitalization currently stands at $12.4 billion. Last quarter alone, we acquired 3 major manufacturers and successfully modernized their operations. The board members were all staring at the numbers, their faces pale. These were men who'd dismissed me, who'd nodded along with my father's decision to demote me to PR. Now, I continued, taking out my old proposal from 10 years ago, let's talk about Harrison Technologies. Your manufacturing processes are outdated, your technology is at least 2 generations behind, and your market share has dropped 45% in the past 5 years. We've been in business for 30 years, my father interrupted, finally finding his voice. We don't need a lecture from who, Dad? Your daughter? The one who wasn't cut out for business. I met his eyes directly. Or from the CEO of the only company that might be able to save yours? He fell silent. I laid out Phoenix Industries' offer. The terms were fair but strict: complete modernization of their facilities, replacement of outdated technology, and significant management changes. Of course, I added, watching my father's face carefully, this offer is contingent on leadership changes. The board would need to vote on a new CEO. Thomas leaned forward. I could. No, I cut him off. Phoenix Industries will appoint its own leadership team. My father stood up, his face red. You planned this. All these years, you've been waiting to take over. I laughed, the sound echoing in the tense room. You think I built a multi-billion-dollar company just to get revenge? That's the difference between us, Dad. You always thought business was about power, about proving something. I built Phoenix Industries because I saw the future of manufacturing, and you were too proud to listen. And now you want to humiliate me? He demanded. No, I said softly. I want to save the company you spent 30 years building. The only question is whether your pride is worth more than Harrison Technologies' survival. The board members exchanged glances. They knew the truth. Without this deal, the company wouldn't last another year. I won't work for my daughter, my father declared. You won't have to, I assured him. Your retirement package is quite generous. Think of it as a chance to finally relax, play golf, do all those things you never had time for while you were busy doubting me. Thomas stood up. This isn't fair. You can't just walk in here and... Life isn't fair, little brother. Isn't that what Dad always told us? I turned to the board. You have 24 hours to accept our offer. After that, we'll move on to other opportunities. I gathered my things, preparing to leave. But I had one last thing to say. Oh, and Dad, remember when you said I wasn't cut out for business? I smiled, watching him shrink in his chair. I guess we finally know who was wrong about that. The next day, Harrison Technologies' board voted overwhelmingly to accept Phoenix Industries' offer. My father abstained, but it didn't matter. The company he'd built, the empire he'd been so proud of, was now part of mine. I kept my word about his retirement package. He and my mother now live comfortably in Florida, though he still won't take my calls. Thomas eventually accepted a middle management position in one of our smaller divisions, where his conventional thinking can't do too much damage. As for me, I moved Harrison Technologies' headquarters to a new building. That mahogany boardroom table was the first thing to go. 1 year later, I stood on stage accepting the Industry Innovation Award. The presenter read out my biography, highlighting how I'd built Phoenix Industries from nothing into a global leader. In the audience, I spotted my father. He'd come after all, though he hadn't RSVP'd. He looked older, smaller somehow, without his CEO title to hide behind. Success in business isn't about maintaining the status quo, I said in my acceptance speech. It's about having the courage to see the future and the determination to build it, even when others doubt you. I saw him flinch, recognizing his own words thrown back at him. After the ceremony, he approached me for the first time in a year. I was wrong, he said simply. I studied him. This man I'd spent so many years trying to please, whose approval had once meant everything to me. Yes, I agreed. You were. Can we try to fix things? I thought about it. On one condition. Anything. Stop telling people I'm your daughter who runs a company. Start telling them you're my father who used to run one. He nodded slowly, understanding at last how completely our roles had reversed. Now if you'll excuse me, I said, checking my phone, I have a company to run. Several, actually. Later that night, alone in my office, I took out my old business proposal. The one he'd dismissed without reading. Its pages were worn now, but the vision it contained had built an empire. I had it framed and hung it in my office, right next to Phoenix Industries' first dollar of profit. A reminder that sometimes the best revenge isn't proving others wrong. It's proving yourself right. The business world still speculates about how a young woman built such a powerful company so quickly. They don't know about those nights sleeping on an office couch, about the years of being dismissed and doubted, about the father who thought his daughter wasn't cut out for business. They don't need to know. Success speaks for itself, and mine echoes louder than any doubts ever could. Last week, a young woman came to pitch her ideas to me. She reminded me of myself, eager, innovative, maybe a little naive. But her eyes held that same fire, that same determination to prove herself. I read every page of her proposal. Then I looked at her and said the words I wish my father had said to me. Let's build the future together. Because that's what real business leaders do. They don't crush dreams, they help build them. Me. I'm exactly where I always knew I could be, at the head of the table, running my empire, proving that being cut out for business isn't about gender or age or family connections. It's about vision, determination, and the courage to walk away from those who don't believe in you, even if they're family. Especially if they're family. My father still comes to our annual shareholders' meetings. He sits quietly in the back, watching as I present our latest innovations and growth figures. Sometimes I catch him smiling proudly, though he tries to hide it. Last month he sent me an email, the first personal message in years. Attached was a photo of that old boardroom, taken the day he dismissed my proposal. You saw what I couldn't, he wrote. I was too busy protecting the past to see the future standing right in front of me. I didn't reply. Some lessons don't need acknowledgement. They just need to be learned. Phoenix Industries continues to grow, but now I make sure to read every proposal that crosses my desk. Because somewhere out there, another dreamer is waiting for someone to believe in them. And I know exactly how that feels.
10 years of dedication erased in 10 minutes. That's how long it took Harold Bennett, CEO of Bennett Marketing Group, to destroy my career, or so he thought. Sarah, we're restructuring the department, he said, not even bothering to look up from his phone. Madison needs a position befitting her qualifications, and well, he gestured vaguely at my portfolio of successful campaigns spread across his desk. We need to make some changes. Madison, his daughter, fresh out of college with a degree in fashion merchandising and zero marketing experience. But apparently, her qualifications trumped my decade of proven success in client relationships I'd built from scratch. I'm Olivia Chen, And this is how I lost everything and gained something much bigger. Mr. Bennett, I kept my voice steady, professional. The Silverstone account alone brought in $12 million last year. My team's campaigns have doubled the agency's revenue since I took over as creative director. Now he did look up, his expression a mix of condescension and false sympathy. Yes, and we appreciate that. You'll receive a generous severance package, but Madison needs to start her career somewhere, and frankly, she has fresh ideas, modern perspectives. You understand. Fresh ideas, like the one I'd overheard her pitching last week, turning our B2B software client's website into a cute Instagram aesthetic with lots of pastels. The client whose technical marketing strategy I'd crafted over 3 years of careful relationship building. When do you need me to leave? I asked, already knowing the answer. Today would be best. Madison's eager to get started. He pushed a manila envelope across the desk. HR has prepared everything. We'll need your keycard and laptop before you go. 10 years. Gone in 10 minutes. I walked back to my office, no Madison's office now, in a daze. The corner space with its floor-to-ceiling windows that I'd earned through years of late nights and successful pitches would now belong to someone who'd never worked a day in her life. Olivia? My assistant Michael hovered in the doorway, his face pale. Is it true? They're letting you go. I nodded, already pulling files from my desk. Madison Bennett needs my position. Apparently, her fashion degree makes her more qualified than a decade of actual marketing experience. But what about the Silverstone presentation next week? The whole campaign is in your head. Michael's voice rose with panic. No one else knows the strategy like you do. I paused, my hand hovering over a file folder. The Silverstone account. Our biggest client, a tech company that had trusted me with their $50 million marketing budget. The presentation was supposed to be my crowning achievement, a complete digital transformation strategy that would revolutionize their brand. I'm sure Madison will figure something out. I said, my tone carefully neutral. Maybe she can suggest some pastels. 2 security guards appeared at my door, a clear signal that Bennett wasn't taking any chances. As if I might steal office supplies. The real valuable assets were all up here, in my head. The client relationships, the strategic insights, the deep understanding of market dynamics that had made me one of the most successful creative directors in the industry. Your laptop, Ms. Chen, one of the guards prompted. I handed it over, knowing it didn't matter. I'd learned early in my career to keep detailed backups of everything. Not company property, of course, just my own notes, insights, and industry research. A decade of knowledge safely stored in my personal cloud account. As I packed my personal items into a box, I could hear Madison's voice carrying down the hallway, high and excited. Daddy, can we redecorate? This office is so boring. I'm thinking pink walls and maybe one of those neon sign things. Michael helped me carry my box to the elevator, his face still stunned. What are you going to do? I smiled, thinking of the email I'd received just last week, the one I'd almost dismissed as a strange coincidence. I'm going to take some time off, maybe do some consulting work. But the Silverstone presentation isn't my problem anymore. I cut him off gently. Madison has fresh ideas, remember. The security guards escorted me to the lobby, past colleagues who quickly looked away. No one wanted to risk their own position by showing sympathy to the fallen executive. That was fine. I didn't need their sympathy. Outside, the spring air was crisp and clean. I took a deep breath, pulling out my phone and opening an email I'd received 8 days ago. Dear Ms. Chen, I represent Quantum Ventures, a private equity firm interested in acquiring marketing agencies in the Northeast region. We followed your work with great interest and would appreciate a confidential meeting to discuss potential opportunities. Best regards, James Sullivan, Managing Director. At the time, I found it odd that they'd reach out to me personally rather than through Bennett Marketing Group's corporate channels. Now it seemed like perfect timing. I hit reply. Mr. Sullivan, I find myself unexpectedly available for a meeting. Would tomorrow work for you? Best regards, Olivia Chen. The response came almost immediately. Perfect. 9 a.m., the Pierre Hotel, Suite 1500. I smiled, flighting down a taxi. Bennett thought he was giving his daughter my job. He didn't realize he was giving me something far more valuable. Freedom. That evening, I sat in my apartment reviewing my personal files. Every campaign strategy I'd ever created, every client insight I'd gathered, every industry trend I'd analyzed, all meticulously documented. Not company property, just my own professional knowledge. My phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Madison spent an hour trying to access your strategy docs for Silverstone. Then she told her dad the files must be corrupted. He's freaking out. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and began writing. Not a marketing strategy this time, but a business plan. Bennett had taught me an invaluable lesson today. Never build something for someone else when you could build it for yourself. My phone kept buzzing with messages from colleagues. Did you really get fired? Madison doesn't even know what B2B means. The Silverstone people are asking for you. I ignored them all, focusing on my plan. Years of watching Bennett run his agency had taught me exactly what not to do. Now it was time to put that knowledge to use. At exactly 9 p.m., another email arrived. Ms. Chen, looking forward to our meeting tomorrow. Bring your ideas for revolutionizing the agency landscape. Money is no object for the right vision. * James Sullivan. I smiled, thinking of Madison struggling with my files, of Bennett realizing too late what he'd lost, of the Silverstone presentation that was doomed to fail spectacularly. But mostly, I thought about next week. The Silverstone meeting would be interesting indeed, just not in the way Bennett was expecting. I stayed up late into the night, refining my plans. Sometimes the best revenge isn't fighting back immediately. Sometimes it's stepping back and letting people destroy themselves while you build something better. Bennett thought he was giving his daughter a shortcut to success. Instead, he was about to give me the perfect opportunity to show him exactly what he'd thrown away. The next morning, I dressed carefully in my best power suit. The one I'd worn to sign the Silverstone contract. It seemed fitting. After all, I was about to sign something even bigger. The Pierre Hotel loomed ahead. Its elegant architecture, a stark contrast to Bennett Marketing Group's try-hard modern office. Inside, the elevator whispered as it carried me to the 15th floor. Suite 1500 was actually a penthouse conference room with sweeping views of Central Park. James Sullivan, a distinguished man in his 60s, stood to greet me. Ms. Chen, thank you for coming. I believe we have much to discuss. The meeting with James Sullivan lasted 3 hours. By the end, my hand was shaking slightly as I signed the papers that would change everything. Welcome to Quantum Ventures, Ms. Chen, Sullivan said, his eyes twinkling. Or should I say, welcome to your new company. I looked down at the documents. Quantum wasn't just giving me funding, they were giving me control. $15 million in startup capital to launch my own agency, with the backing of one of the most powerful private equity firms in the country. Just one question, I said. Why me? Sullivan smiled. We've been watching you for years. Your strategies for Silverstone alone proved you understand where the industry is heading. Bennett was a fool to let you go, but his loss is our gain. 1 week later, I sat in another conference room, this time at the Silverstone Technologies headquarters. My phone had been buzzing nonstop with updates from my former colleagues about the impending disaster at Bennett Marketing Group. Madison had spent the week redecorating my old office and posting Instagram stories about girl boss vibes. She hadn't bothered to look at any of the client files or campaign data. Why would she? Daddy would fix everything just like he always had. The conference room doors opened. Harold Bennett strode in, Madison trailing behind him clutching a pink laptop. Their confident expressions faltered when they saw me sitting there. Olivia? Bennett's face reddened. What are you doing here? This is a private meeting. Is it? I smiled. I was invited. Before he could respond, more people entered the room. James Sullivan, the CEO of Silverstone Technologies, their entire executive team. Harold, the Silverstone CEO, nodded curtly. I believe you know everyone except our new marketing partner. Though actually, he smiled at me. It seems you do know her. Bennett's face went from red to pale. Marketing partner? Yes, I said smoothly, opening my laptop. Quantum Axis, my new agency, will be handling all of Silverstone's marketing going forward. In fact, I gestured to Sullivan. We just finalized the contracts this morning. Madison's pink laptop slipped from her fingers, clattering onto the conference table. But we have a presentation prepared. Do you? I raised an eyebrow. Please, go ahead. Bennett grabbed his daughter's arm. Actually, we should reschedule. Give us time to. No, the Silverstone CEO's voice was firm. I'd like to see this presentation. Madison, you were telling me yesterday about your fresh perspectives. Madison looked like she might faint. Well, show them your ideas, sweetie, Bennett encouraged desperately. The ones about making their website more, what was it? Instagram aesthetic, I supplied helpfully, with pastels. The Silverstone executives exchanged glances. Their company produced enterprise-level cybersecurity software for Fortune 500 companies. Instagram aesthetics weren't exactly on brand. Madison opened her laptop, pulled up a PowerPoint, and began the most painful presentation I'd ever witnessed. Stock photos of millennials laughing at salads. Suggestions to make cybersecurity fun and flirty. A proposal to rename their flagship product Tech Defender. The silence when she finished was deafening. Well, the Silverstone CEO cleared his throat. That was interesting. Olivia, perhaps you could share your vision. I stood up, clicked once on my laptop, and brought up detailed market analysis, user behavior studies, and a comprehensive digital transformation strategy. Everything I'd been working on before being fired, now refined and expanded with Quantum's resources. As you can see, I concluded 30 minutes later by integrating AI-driven personalization with enterprise-level security protocols. We can increase engagement while maintaining your core brand identity as a serious industry leader. Applause broke out among the Silverstone executives. Bennett looked like he'd swallowed something sour. I think we've seen everything we need to, the CEO announced. Harold, I'll be direct. We're terminating our contract with Bennett Marketing Group, effective immediately. Olivia's new agency will be taking over all our marketing activities. You can't do that, Bennett exploded. We have a contract. A contract, Sullivan spoke up, that includes performance clauses and professional standards requirements. Clauses that I believe you've dramatically violated with today's presentation. Bennett turned to me, his face contorted with rage. You planned this. You stole our client. No, Harold, I said calmly. You fired the person your biggest client trusted. You replaced years of experience with nepotism. You destroyed your own company. I just built a better one. Daddy, Madison whimpered. Do something. But there was nothing he could do. In one morning, Bennett Marketing Group had lost their biggest client, worth nearly 40% of their annual revenue. By the end of the month, they'd lose 6 more major accounts as word spread about Madison's disastrous presentation. The best part? I didn't have to steal a single client. They came to me on their own, drawn by my reputation and disgusted by Bennett's unprofessionalism. 1 year later, I sat in my own corner office, this one with an even better view. Quantum Access had grown from just me to a team of 50, including Michael and several other former Bennett employees who jumped ship. Bennett Marketing Group still existed, but barely. Last I heard, they downsized to a small office in the suburbs, handling local business advertising. Madison had quit after 3 months, taking a job as a social media manager for a boutique dog accessories company. My phone buzzed. A message from Michael. You'll never guess who's in the lobby. I pulled up the security feed and laughed. Harold Bennett, looking much older and decidedly less polished, pacing nervously by the reception desk. Should we let him up? Michael texted. I thought about it. Bennett had taught me the most valuable lesson of my career. Never let someone else control your destiny. In trying to give his daughter a shortcut to success, he'd given me the push I needed to build something far greater than I ever imagined. Send him up, I replied. And Michael? Make sure there's a nice pink latte waiting for him, with extra pastels. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's letting them see exactly what they lost. And as Bennett stepped into my office, his eyes taking in the awards on my walls and the view of the city behind me, I knew he was finally seeing it. Harold, I smiled, gesturing to a chair. What can Quantum Access do for you today? He sat down heavily, his former arrogance replaced by desperation. Olivia, we need help. The agency is struggling. Maybe we could work something out. I leaned back in my chair, thinking of that day in his office a year ago. Of course, I said smoothly. I'm always happy to help. In fact, I pulled out a contract from my desk. I've been thinking about acquiring some smaller local agencies, for the tax write-off. His face flushed as he realized what I was suggesting. You want to buy Bennett Marketing Group. Consider it a restructuring. I said, using his own words from a year ago. After all, sometimes we need to make changes to accommodate new qualifications. The look on his face was worth every moment of humiliation I'd endured. Sometimes life has a way of bringing things full circle. And sometimes, getting fired is the best thing that can happen to you. If you're ready to build something bigger from the ashes. I pushed the contract across my desk, offering him a pen. Shall we discuss terms?